Hey everybody, it's the Commodore from the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and you are watching the weekly Wringer series here on clanofthegraywolf.com. No spicy intro like last week, unfortunately, and I'll get to some of the choices I've made there moving forward in a little bit, but nonetheless, it's good to be back with you guys talking for another week. We've got a lot to do today. That being said, fairly easy in terms of the scope. We've got to wrap up the Netflix conversation for my great Netflix quandary I had last week. I'll give you what I believe my decision is going to be and kind of weigh in on what I think I'm going to do. And then I want to ask you a question about movies that just didn't quite live up to the hype. All right, so the intro last week seemed to be a pretty big hit. I think everybody really liked it. I have to say, it was a lot of fun doing it, and I had a really good time putting it together. So another thing that got brought up was maybe I should do something intro-like, maybe changing styles or whatnot, moving forward for every weekly Wringer. And the answer I have for that is, first of all, I love that idea, and it would certainly help to kind of fuel certain creative, parts of the site and kind of my contribution to it moving forward. But you all know very well that I started the Wringer because I wanted to be able to contribute, become a little bit more personable with the community out there to help grow the user base and have good conversations while doing something that wasn't as labor intensive as something like Rue that really... Rue puts a ton of time into the 16-bit gems because that's what really fuels him creatively. I enjoy that less, that kind of stuff less. So this format works for me better. Rue wouldn't want to do this kind of a series. I would want to do his kind of series, and that's why we kind of share and the load and the burden in that regard. So I really started the Wringer as a way to contribute without having to take up a ton of time. But also still be able to do not a whole lot of editing, but give you good quality content. So I think adding a different intro with spice and everything, it could just go crazy. And before too long, I could be, doing multiple angle shots and off-camera stuff. And I just think it probably doesn't suit this format the best. That being said, I think one of the reasons why it worked so well last week was because no one was really expecting it, right? And so I think I'm very open to doing those kinds of intros and other kinds of video, borrowing or splicing or anything like that. I'm very open to that. I think it's just going to be something that we do as a rarity, because the important part is that we ask questions and that we get answers from the community. That's the most important part. That's why we're all here. That's why I started this series to begin with. So let's move on to the conversation from last week. Tremendous outpouring of comments. Lots of new commenters, as always, which I'm thrilled about. But also, I'm really thrilled, too, to see some folks that have been with us for a while come out of hibernation for one reason or another and come back and get back in with the community and commenting right off the bat. So it was great to see some folks like that, like Mike K.E., and it was also great to see Youngblood back as well. And that's what makes this thing cool. We all kind of become friends and have the community of the people that I know I'm going to hear from every week, and that's a very, very good thing. Let's talk about some of the new folks that I saw commenting. Again, I might not have gotten everybody. I hope I did. If I didn't, please put in your comment from next week, and I'll definitely give you props at that point as well. But I've got the Dapper Lycanthropy, which is pretty neat little name. I like that. Drastic, welcome. The Onion Knight, who has an awesome name. I don't even know what that's from, but the icons that have been on top have been there for it has been really cool. And as I recall, he was crushed by Ninto. But anyway, different story. And then we've also got Shiro Wolf. I think that's how I would say it. That's how I'm going to guess. Welcome to all of you. Great to have you as a part of the community. Hope you stay on board and keep commenting. And we have, 47 comments every week. That would make me very happy. It would make me happy to have 60 comments a week. That would be fantastic. Okay, Netflix. What was the question? The question I asked you was, I'm sure that some of you had gotten it, and many of you have gotten the letter from Netflix, as I have, that said, hey, we're going to be raising the price on having both the DVD option and the streaming option to $16 approximately. You pay $10 now, or you can make a choice. You can choose to do the streaming only for $8, or you can choose to do DVD only for $8. That was the question. So the question was really, what do I choose to do? And a lot of great contributions from the community. I'm really not even going to get into specific ones today because everyone had something to say about all of this. And so I think there's a lot of good insight to be taken out of the entire community load this week. So I'm going to keep it simple. So here we go. I think that a number of you mentioned the idea of really that it becomes dependent upon how we view our movies. Very good point. You know, if you're the kind of person that really views movies as a way to, views movies by kind of last minute going, hey, let's watch a movie, then streaming is probably going to be best for you. If you're somebody that has a list of movies that you want to see, and you know you want to see them before you kind of move on to newer movies or whatever the case might be, then obviously the by mail option is probably going to be best for you. And I think if you're someone kind of in both camps and you don't mind forking out the extra cash, I think both is actually not a bad deal. It's not a tremendously high subscription cost. That being said, I think it is probably a little bit higher than I would have expected to pay Netflix every month. And it also depends, as many of you said, on what kinds of movies you watch. If you happen to watch a lot of, if you're looking to really get through that kind of back catalog, as I just mentioned, maybe you've got a lot of movies from the classics that you need to catch up on. Streaming probably isn't going to fit the bill because they do have a lot of classic movies down there, but they really do pick and choose what gets to be a part of the catalog. And a lot of those movies, for example, I watched Blue Velvet probably about a month ago now. I watched Blue Velvet, which is a movie from 1985, 1986, a David Lynch film. It's just one that's been on my list for a long time. It jumped onto the streaming list for only about 2 months or so, I think, and so I took the opportunity to watch it. It will be gone in a short manner of time, and I won't be able to watch it on streaming anymore. Now, if I wanted, if 3 months ago the urge just hit me, I really want to watch, a couple David Lynch movies, then pretty much every David Lynch movie you can imagine is available on the DVD side of the house. So I could just get them all and just watch them all as a part of one collective effort to watch them all. And I've done that many times with DVDs. I'll think of something like, I want to watch every John Cusack movie that I don't already own. You just throw every John Cusack movie in there on a DVD and just burn through them, right? And when I first got Netflix, I had 3 at a time. So you could really get through a lot of movies very quickly that way. But I also had a lot more time to be watching movies, which many of you commented on as well. So how much time you actually do have to watch movies makes a big difference as well. If you're somebody that that actually watches a fair amount of movies, then both is probably the best option. If you're somebody that is very, very, very selective, I would say the DVD option is probably best. And if you're somebody that doesn't mind kicking on an occasional bad movie or a movie that you really don't have a lot of high hopes for, you just kind of want to watch it, then I think the streaming is probably the best option for it. So several of you touched on the idea of the Starz partnership, which I think is absolutely true, which helps to bring some films that are rather new out of the theater to the forefront so that people can watch it. It's only for a limited time, but you'll be able to watch a movie that probably hasn't even actually come out on DVD yet, or might come out on DVD, or might have just come out on DVD, whatever the case might be. I don't know all the selectivity rules, and God knows that's got to be tremendously difficult to understand. But it's a really good point. That kind of a partnership is what makes it tick and what makes it go. And something like Hulu, which is now become kind of a competitive force for them, even though I'm not sure Hulu has really proven yet that it has what it takes to make the same kind of money, and because of the overhead and everything else that they host on Hulu. But I think Hulu is probably the dream for what Netflix would probably like to be eventually. The DVD model is just a higher cost model than the streaming model because of licensing, so on and so forth. With DVDs, you really only have to have the piece of hardware to be able to send it out. The media is what I mean. Sorry, guys. The media, you just have to have the media and own that media to be able to send it out. And I'm sure they lease those things too, and then they, burn them or sell them at discount stores or something like that once they come out of circulation. But in any case, there's that. Many of you are very unhappy with this move, regardless of what comes from it. Some of you seem to be just fine with it. It's kind of a natural progression of the way things work in this business, and things have changed a little bit. And so it's time to kind of find a new model. And I have empathy for both of those positions, definitely. Let's see. What am I missing from what you guys talked about? Really, that kind of gets, I think, to the meat and bones of, the meat and potatoes. Why am I saying meat and bones? I'm mixing metaphors again. Sorry. Meat and potatoes of what you guys were talking about. Meat and bones. That's a completely different. That's like a Diablo reference or something. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I think most of you were really getting to with the conversation. So I'll say this, and there wasn't a whole lot of talk about this, maybe none, and I was very surprised about that. But I think what we're seeing, guys, is I just did a guest spot on a podcast where I did talk about this. So I'm glad to be talking about it here. So if you listen to that podcast, it'll be spoiled here and not there. And I talked about you guys and my wonderful community on it, so you should definitely take a listen. But anyway, we'll announce that when it comes out. But the point is, one thing that didn't get a whole lot of mention is the Redbox phenomenon, because I think that's really behind what's going on here. So Redbox, which now sits over at the store outside of your favorite grocery store or whatever, is very, very cheap, a couple bucks, maybe $1, right, to get a very, very limited selection of films that you can just pull out, watch in your DVD machine at home or your Blu-ray machine at home, and then toss it back in the machine the next day. Everyone goes home happy. No late fees, no nothing. It's just kind of there. Done, right? What a cool concept, right? What a neat little concept. I think it's that phenomenon is why Netflix is having such a difficult time kind of adapting, because now Redbox has a lot of the same folks. So it's the same kind of model that you have on streaming for Netflix is available in those Redbox machines. It's got a few classics, a few here and there, but mostly it's just kind of new movies that are very hot and very in demand, and they don't mind paying the licensing for, and you can just do it, right? So in order to keep the DVD business going, which is a higher cost model, and compete with Redbox, I think it makes a lot of sense for them to have a service in DVDs that is maybe a little more expensive, or adds to the expense of having a streaming service for Netflix. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the majority of the business in Netflix is, but I would venture to say that most of their business now is actually streaming. If you look at the number of movies that people watch, maybe not the number of subscribers, but the number of movies people watch, I would venture to say, and I'm sure this has been published somewhere, that it's probably majority streaming. Okay, so where do I fit into all of this? First of all, I'd say this. I don't really mind that they're bringing the prices up. That being said, I've been at $10 a month for a long, long time now. And so it is kind of strange to be thinking about raising the prices at this moment. That I do know that they're doing it for a reason, and I think it's a good reason. But I think if I'm going to be honest, I started to think to myself, do I want to pay $16 a month to have the DVD service, to have the streaming service as well? And so I'm going to go through kind of how I'm going to try to answer all the questions you guys just raised about my own experience to see what I'm actually going to do. So I will be completely honest with you. Over the last 6 months, I have probably gone through 2, maybe 3 DVDs. That being said, I've probably watched about 30 or 40 movies on Netflix, and the rest have obviously been streaming. I use my computer, my PC, my